This is the Ultrarunning History Podcast. I'm your host, Davey Crockett. This is episode 103, a bonus episode for us to turn our hearts to those in Ukraine. I will tell some of the history of ultrarunning in Ukraine and highlight some of the most amazing runners in their history and provide some insight into how some are being affected by the violent invasion of their country. Ultrarunning in Ukraine has had a long, wonderful history since the early 1970s. As the country is being ravaged from war, ultrarunners around Ukraine have turned their attention to survival, defending their country, or fleeing as refugees to other countries. Ultramarathons once held regularly in Ukraine are sadly gone for now. This episode will highlight the history of ultrarunning in Ukraine and profile some of the very talented Ukrainian ultrarunners who over the years have been a great inspiration. Ultrarunners from Ukraine ran with joy in the past, but now they run in fear. With most communications cut off from them, thoughts and prayers go out as they deal with the severe violence taking place in their homeland. Some recent news is being heard from Ukrainian ultrarunners. Over the years, there have been more than 5,000 ultrarunners from Ukraine who have walked or ran in ultramarathon events around the world from distances from 50 kilometers to 3,100 miles. Before the pandemic, in 2019, there were 30 ultramarathons held in Ukraine, and at least 1,300 Ukrainians finished ultras that year. The first ultra in Ukraine was started in 1974, while the country was still part of the Soviet Union. It is called 100 kilometers along the Belt of Glory, held in Odessa, Ukraine's biggest port city. The race has been held every year since for 48 years. It was established to dedicate the day of liberation of Odessa from the Nazi invaders on April 10, 1944. The race with a 24-hour cutoff used to run a big loop around Odessa, but recently starts in Shevchenko Park near the Monument of the Unknown Soldier and then runs a big loop through Odessa, visiting many of the monuments of the Second World War. It was first organized as a walking event in 1974 with 128 starters and eventually evolved into a running event. The race's largest year was in 1988 when there were 2,111 starters and 889 finishers in under 12 hours. The race motto is, "We can run because you stood still," referring to the defenders of their city during World War II. The Belt of Glory 100K has had many traditions through the years. Guitarists walk along playing songs, accompanying the walkers and runners for the first 15 kilometers. At the finish line is played, "We Are the Champions," recognizing all those that finish as champions of the event. Finishers then get to dine on a signature soup cooked with love in the field kitchen. The runners in Odessa can be credited for being the pioneers of Ukrainian ultrarunning. In 1988, another race was established in Odessa, a 24-hour track race that started a long tradition of fixed-time ultras in Ukraine. It was held annually in late October for 10 years and called the 24 Hours Stadium Run, and held in Spartak Stadium. For the first year, there were 35 runners from Ukraine, Russia, Latvia, and Moldavia. Valery Gubar of Russia won with 163 miles. He was one of the greatest fixed-time ultrarunners in the world of that era. His mark at the race that year was the all-time race record and was the third best 24-hour distance for a USSR runner during the Soviet Union era. The next year, the race was expanded to also include a 48-hour race. A 72-hour race was added in 1990, a 6-day race added in 1991, and an incredible 1,000-mile race was added in 1995. By 2001, a Ukrainian 24-hour team was formed that competed at the various 24-hour IAU World Championships. Starting in 2007, Ukrainian Ultras spread to other cities, Kharkov and Kyiv. The Kyiv 24-hour race was held for 13 years, from 2007 to 2019. Odessa's Belt of Glory 100K still was the most popular race in Ukraine. Trail Ultras began in 2016 with the Crimea X-Run 52K, and the popularity of Trail Ultras in Ukraine increased fast, with many more races, including a 100-miler. Trail Runner magazine reported,
Ukraine is a beautiful country with extraordinary nature and breathtaking landscapes, which makes it possible to run trails in nearly every part of our land, year-round. The best place for trails? Carpathian Mountains, with some peaks above 6,500 feet, with high humidity in every season.
The most popular trail ultra in Ukraine is Chornohorskyi Marathon 62K that runs on 6 2,000-meter peaks in the Carpathians and had 364 finishers in 2021. It has been held for 7 years and was scheduled to be held again in August 2022. The most prolific male ultra runner ever from Ukraine is Valery Christianok from Kyiv. During his hopefully continued ultra running career, he has finished at least 83 ultras. His first was run in 1987 at the Europe-Asia 100K road race held in Russia, where he finished 15th in 8 hours 44 minutes. While part of the Soviet Union, only few ultra runners were able to get permission to run in the many ultras held in Western Europe. As the Soviet Union started to dissolve in 1990, Christianok started to compete in ultras in Western Europe. He was the lone Ukrainian participant at the 1990 International 24-Hour Championships held inside Milton Keynes Mall in Great Britain. The course was set up with an 890-meter loop. Cones were placed out with long stretches of plastic tape. The surface was hard marble that was very slippery when wet. The race was referred to as, quote, the greatest 24-hour field ever assembled. Christianok finished in 37th with 104 miles. He continued to compete in many European championships across Europe in the coming years. He was the premier ultra runner. Ukrainian 24-hour team was formed in 2001 to participate in the 24-hour World Championship in Verona, Italy. Christianok went on to run in 6 more World Championships, including the most recent 24-hour World Championship held in Albi, France, where world records were set by Alexander Sokorin of Lithuania and Camille Herron of the US. Christianok finished in 274th out of 346 runners with 91 miles at the age of 58, one of 13 Ukraine team members who competed. His greatest performance probably was set back in 1991, a 24-hour race in France. This was held on a 3-mile road loop with 114 runners. He was the overall winner with 161 miles. He has reached and passed 100 miles in more than 40 races during his career. His last known race came in 2020 when he ran in the Belt of Glory 100K, where he finished in 41st in 15 hours 39 minutes. The most prolific female ultra runner ever from Ukraine is Larissa Labartkeva from Lviv. During her hopefully continued ultra running career, she has finished at least 52 ultras. What is incredible is that she began to run at the age of 55 in 2004. She ran her first ultra in 2009 at the age of 60, the Open Championship of Moldova 24-hour run, which she won with 70 miles. She kept improving into her 60s, winning a 48-hour race in Vinnytsia, Ukraine, with an impressive 145 miles. She also won a 48-hour race in 2018 in Belarus, where she reached 137 miles at the age of 69.
Every morning, Larissa Labartkeva starts her day by walking school children across the street as part of a volunteer program on road safety. Then she waves goodbye and heads off to her cross-country training.
В этом виде спорта можно немножко остановиться.
I try to control my speed myself. This is my time. I usually make stops when I need it and then manage to make up for the time. This run is like a holiday for me.
Larissa began to run at the age of 55. Before that, she was fond of mountaineering. But her golden years she spent running marathons throughout Ukraine and abroad. In the last 15 years, she's managed to visit as many countries.
Это пробежала.
Once I won a 12-hour run in Belarus. This is the Belarusian Cup. I'm very proud of it.
That winter in Belarus, Larissa ran 212 kilometers in 48 hours and took second place for the women's competition. Her son got his passion for sports from his mother and also participates in marathons.
I always wait for her at the finish line, take pictures and, of course, support her. We try to support each other.
Лариса таки унікальна. Вона просто...
Larissa is absolutely unique. She has a natural gift. She is an endurance athlete. Indeed, very few people can run 2 days in a row without any break.
To keep herself fit, she does aerobics twice a week in addition to running.
Весь цей час вона з нами тут активно працює.
All the time she works hard. She does not miss training classes. Larissa receives her physical preparation and relaxation after intensive physical loads during the marathon distance.
The Lviv resident has already taken part in 120 marathons. She won dozens of cups and hundreds of medals. Now she's preparing for a 24-hour marathon in Romania.
In her 13-year ultra-running career, Larissa has averaged finishing about 8 ultras per year and went over 100 miles in at least 15 of them. Her last ultra on record was in 2021, when at the age of 72, she covered 124 miles in 48 hours in Poland. Viktor Lozovick of Armyansk on the isthmus of the Crimean Peninsula was an elite ultra runner from Ukraine with at least a dozen ultra wins, including 3 victories at Belt of Glory 100K. He also achieved 146 miles in a 24-hour run and 88 miles in a 12-hour run. In 2005, he put ultra running aside and took up ultra-distance cycling. He became very famous when he attempted a 7,230-mile bike ride in 85 days to the far east coast of Russia, located at the terminus of the Trans-Siberian Railway on the shores of the Sea of Japan near the North Korean border. He started his journey on May 31, 2005, and crossed into Russia 7 days later. He finished 85 days later near the railway station and proclaimed, "I did it. My dream has come true." During his trip, he wore out 3 tires, a chain, 9 sprockets, and 4 spokes had to be replaced. In 2017, he took his riding to even greater extremes and pedaled through 17 countries in 148 days on a homemade bike with the Ukrainian flag waving in front. Lozovick shared his impressions of how people treated the Ukrainian flag in other countries.
No one treated the flag badly. Even in Russia, people looked at it normally.
When he was asked why he did it, his reply was simply, "Movement is life." Katarina of Odessa was known as the Iron Lady of ultrarunning in Ukraine. She was a talented triathlete and began running ultras in 2016 with a second-place finish in the Belt of Glory 100K and a first-place finish at Kyiv's 24-hour race with 97 miles. She was a member of Ukraine's national 24-hour team and ran at the 2016 European Championship. In 2019, she ran at the 50K World Championship in Romania, where she set a personal best of 3 hours 52 minutes. Sadly, in June 2020, at the 42-mile Odessa Ultra Trail Kuyalnik race in Ukraine, she went missing. The tough course runs close to the Black Sea at Ukraine's most southern point that consists of, in some places, impenetrable jungle, swamps, reeds, stones, steep ups and downs. The race day temperature reached 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It was reported,
There were initial fears that she had been kidnapped when she didn't reach the finish line in the expected time window. Police eventually located her due to her mobile phone signal.
She had collapsed and was in critical condition. It was hoped she would survive, but sadly, later on she suffered a stroke in the hospital and died. Katarina had said, quote, "Believe in your strength. If you want to run, run. Even if something goes wrong, at least you tried." Suri Popov of Kyiv is a running coach, a journalist, and a PhD student. He is the fastest trail runner in Ukraine. He has won national trail and long-distance mountain running championships almost every year since 2015 and took part in 9 world championships. Popov began ultrarunning in 2016 as a member of the Kyiv Marathon Club and won his first trail ultra that year, a 60K race in Poland. The wins kept coming, including a recent 100-mile win in Germany, where he finished in 13 hours, 23 minutes. A few days ago, Popov published an article for Fox News. He had been training for an ultra to be held in Barcelona, Spain, on February 27th. He wrote, "On February 23rd, prepared to fly to Spain the next day, my girlfriend and I fell asleep. We woke up at 5 a.m. because of the sound of explosions. The war had started. Our decision was to go to Zhytomyr, 80 miles from Kyiv, my girlfriend's hometown. The roads were jammed with traffic, with thousands of cars trying to escape in panic. Instead of continuing, they opted to wait and stay at a friend's home. They did not sleep well because explosions continued all night. In the morning, they left town in their friend's car, but because of a destroyed bridge, they decided to stay in Zhytomyr." He said, "It is not the safest place, but it is a place where I thought I could do something to help fight against enemies." He didn't have the experience to join the army, but he and his girlfriend started to help where they could, including delivering water and snacks to the soldiers on block posts, building fortifications, and doing other volunteer work. "The noise of approaching missiles or jets is terrifying. You feel shaking walls, think that this is the end. Just when I am writing this essay, I can hear jets and explosions. I am trying to stay positive and strong, but sometimes feel hopeless. Before the war, I was a coach for a local running club. Now that is not an option, so I have lost all my income. I left my home in Kyiv and don't know if it still stands. But I don't think myself as a victim. There are thousands of people in Ukraine who are in more danger than me, who have lost much more. I just wish this war would end soon. We will rebuild our country, and I will be able to run another 100 miles. Popov has been active on Strava, but his last recorded run was on February 23rd, an 8-mile evening road run in Kyiv. Before then, he had been training about 100 miles a week. Victoria Nicolenko of Kozanka is the Ukrainian national champion and record holder of the 24-hour run. She started ultrarunning in 2019 and very quickly established herself as the best female ultrarunner in Ukraine. In 2021, she was the overall winner of Kyiv's last one standing ultra with 191 miles. She also reached 147 miles at the 24-hour Ultra Park race in Poland, the same race where Alexander Sorokin of Lithuania set a new world record of 192 miles. Victoria's dream was to be able to participate in the Big Dog's Backyard Ultra and be able to meet Courtney Dalwalter, but the war has changed everything. Now her goal is to rescue her children. She recently fled Kyiv with her 5-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter in search of a safe place. During air raid sirens, she and her children had to run to a shelter and hide there. She reports that they are now safe, but she just can't bear to leave her beloved Ukraine yet. She left behind her brother and husband who chose to defend the city. Her other relatives were hiding from Russian shelling in basements. Now her thoughts are no longer about training or competitions. She said, quote, "My dream now is to see my husband, my brother, and my parents alive. Before the war, I trained a lot and I was preparing to improve my national record in the 24 hours, but the war has come. It is scary to see how my homeland is collapsing. My dream is to wake up in my country and see from all the news that Ukraine has won. My dream is to see Ukraine as a whole, restored, invincible country. Andriy Takachuk of Zakarpatska is the greatest ultrarunner ever from Ukraine and is their top runner on Ukraine's national 24-hour team. He started running ultras in 2012. Victories started to come fast as he dominated 24-hour races in Kyiv from 2016 to 2018. At the World 24-Hour Championships in Albi, France in 2019, he took 11th place with 163 miles. In 2020, he won Ukraine's Backyard Championship with 170 miles. In 2021, at the Ultra Park 24-hour race in Poland, he finished second to Sokorin with 183 miles for the third best mark in ultrarunning history. During that race, he also reached 96 miles in 12 hours and ran 100 miles in 12 hours 32 minutes, setting Ukrainian national records. Andriy is a reservist in the Ukrainian army and was called to fight for his country. He answered the call and is now defending Ukraine. The International Association of Ultrarunners, or IAU, issued a statement that they strongly condemned Russian actions against Ukraine and that Russia had already been suspended from the IAU because of doping violations and therefore not eligible to host or send teams to IAU championships.
The IAU is in touch with the ultrarunning family in Ukraine, while several members of the community have been called to the front lines. We are united among our community in support for runners and the entire nation of Ukraine. We extend our deepest thoughts, prayers, and strength to the Ukrainian community. We will continue to promote the message of peace and solidarity across the globe.
In Odessa, the birthplace of ultrarunning in Ukraine, people are fleeing. Others are hoping and waiting nervously. Amidst the chaos, a Ukrainian military band held a concert recently outside. Band members were seen standing in front of sandbag barriers that are being put up for defenses. In front of the barrier was written, Odessa, Ukraine.
Residents pile up sandbags and make Molotov cocktails as they prepare to defend their home. Ukrainian officials are becoming more and more certain that the southern city of Odessa could be Russia's next target.
I'm here to protect my town. I'm cooking and filling sandbags. My house is here. We have to defend it. That's how we were brought up.
It is hoped that this conflict will soon end and that someday ultrarunning can return to Ukraine, where people can again be seen running with joy. With that, this is Davy Crockett, and this is the Ultrarunning History Podcast. I hope you run fast and far, enjoy life, get outdoors, and most of all, stay safe and don't take unnecessary chances.